we really have to understand that the journey back to trust is first with us. And then as we show up for ourselves, as gradually we follow through, we keep our commitments. Our yes now means yes. Our no now means no. And we see that we're living in alignment. That is a beautiful place. And as this trust grows, we dial up that intuition. We now are operating at that inner place where we're connected to how situations make us feel cognitively, emotionally, spiritually. It's such a beautiful place. And when we're living like that, our vibration is higher, our energy is more attractive, and other people start trusting us. So never forget that this must start with you. Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Teri Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion. Learn the truth behind the alcohol myths and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Well, hey everyone, it's Teri back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast, and I hope you're doing well. It's been a beautiful start to the summer here in Northern California. If you're listening to this in real time, it's early June, and we have strawberries in our garden and peonies blooming, and it's just been lovely. And I always think about the way that when I was drinking and over drinking, I was so disconnected from my senses and from my body and from recognizing that there were things in my environment that could create tension, triggers, if you will. And then there were things in my environment that are soothing to me and help me move into that beautiful state of rest and digest, that parasympathetic, or as I'm learning to call it, the ventral vagal. So I want to talk today about trusting ourselves, because this journey really does require that we reframe how we're showing up in the world. And it's a journey of learning when we are bombarded by life, when emotions feel big, when things happen that take us way out of our comfort zone, and we start to react and respond. One of the most powerful things we learn to do in this alcohol-free journey is to check in with our body. And so there are a couple of things I want to talk about today, and I'm going to use some of the resources from Dr. Nicole LePera. So Dr. Nicole LePera is an incredible psychologist, and she calls herself the holistic psychologist. And one of the things I'm most grateful for with her work is that she just tells all of us, please disseminate this work, use it, share it. And so she's written an incredible book, several books, but the one that I'm going to refer to partly today is called How to Meet Yourself. And when I first got this book, it's a workbook. I thought, wow, I am not ready for this. And I'm certainly not going to recommend it to my clients. But what I've realized is that there are little chapters and sections that are so relevant to how I like to share this process with all of you. And I'm just coming to recognize that and honor that. And particularly when it comes to this idea of where we are out of alignment with ourselves and how we can use our senses and our somatic awareness, somatic of the body, our awareness to help trust ourselves again. So I've talked before about this journey is one of trust because I firmly believe from my own experience and from my experience with working with thousands of clients now that when we are drinking and over drinking, we lose trust with ourselves because we make promises and we break those promises. For example, we might say, well, I'm not going to drink tonight because I overdid it on the weekend. And then by 5 p.m., we're pouring ourselves that first drink. Or we might say, I'm never going to put myself in that situation again where I'm tired and exhausted and I can't refuse a drink because I don't feel that I have any other options. And then we blow right past that promise. And so when our yes no longer means yes and our no no longer means no, it's very challenging to trust ourselves. And the power of trusting ourselves and the danger of not trusting ourselves is that we dial down our intuition. And so that spidey sense, that gut feeling of how do I make decisions? How do I know without evidence the best way to move forward? That is dialed down to the point that at least in my case and for many of my clients, we're just going through the motions. We're living by default. We're kind of defaulting to the lowest common denominator. And we're no longer able to use our own intuition and our own trust and our own inner knowing to make the best decision, to have our own back. And so this becomes a slippery slope because one of the things I know for so many of us, when we put down alcohol and we look at the place we've arrived, where maybe our relationships are messy, maybe there's some conflict we've been avoiding, maybe there's some hard conversations, maybe there's some repair work to be done with our relationships. And we look at other people and we think, well, why aren't they trusting me? And I always want to remind all of us, and myself included, that we must start with ourself. And so we really have to understand that the journey back to trust is first with us. And then as we show up for ourselves, as gradually we follow through, we keep our commitments. Our yes now means yes. Our no now means no. And we see that we're living in alignment. That is a beautiful place. And as this trust grows, we dial up that intuition. We now are operating at that inner place where we're connected to how situations make us feel cognitively, emotionally, spiritually. It's such a beautiful place. And when we're living like that, our vibration is higher, our energy is more attractive, and other people start trusting us. So never forget that this must start with you. And how do we build trust back with ourselves? So we must start with small things that feel good. And I sometimes share just the simplest of things for my audience. And it can look like washing your makeup off at night. Like how many times when you were drinking and over drinking, did you go to bed and wake up with mascara down your face? Or cleaning your kitchen before you go to bed? Or recording your expenses, doing your daily gratitude? Whatever these small things, as you complete these tasks, you get to say, wow, you're doing it. Look at you go. You are someone who follows through. You can be trusted. You keep your commitments. And so, starting with the really small things, there was a very powerful YouTube video that went viral a few years ago. And there was an army sergeant, I believe, who talked about making your bed, literally making your bed every day as that first act of following through, keeping your commitment. And that small act leads to everything else. So this is really like walking up this ladder of trust. We start small. If you know anything about me, you know I am a real fan of saying lower the bar. And I know it sounds funny, and I always poke fun at myself because, we often say, like, do all the things, challenge yourself, reach your highest level. And yes, I agree with all of that. However, we have to lower the bar to the place that we're just getting started. And the reason that we need to lower the bar in the beginning is because we have to build trust in these small, simple actions that allow us to lean into how it feels. And then we make progress from there. So, this idea of trusting our self can be fully connected to how we feel in our body in such a beautiful way. And full disclosure, I was someone who really didn't recognize any of this. And the more I lean into this work, and the more I start to explore how we use our autonomic nervous system and how we recognize when we're in fight, when we're in flight, when we're in freeze, when we're in that trusting place where we're in that restful state that feels good. How does that feel in my body? And I recognize that so many of us don't know the first place to start. And so I really like the work of Dr. Nicole LePera because she helps us and has helped me really understand what it looks like to build that emotional resilience. And so, really, trust comes from that place of emotional resilience. And so, it's interesting when we're building this trust back with ourselves. We often are hoping that other people will trust us as well. But when I unpack this idea of what's underneath, you'll see that expecting other people to have the emotional resilience to rise up to what's happening in your day to day is a big ask. And so it's really powerful to just start with ourself. And so Dr. Nicole LePera calls it widen your window of tolerance. And so the idea is that when we choose to do something uncomfortable, we're giving ourselves an opportunity to teach our body and our mind how to tolerate stress. And so we have to increase our capacity to cope and adapt to stress. And so, as we increase this window of tolerance by gently stressing our nervous system, we help our body return to safety. And this is a beautiful practice, and it's a practice. So, it's going to take time and awareness, and it might feel awkward or uncomfortable at first, but it's really important to just kind of check in with ourselves and to gradually start so we don't overwhelm our body too quickly. And so, sensations, thoughts, they can be intense, they can be calming. And so, we're just going to explore together a few ways that she helps us think about this parasympathetic or sympathetic response that we have and how we can notice it, how we can check in, how we can start to stretch our ability to tolerate these uncomfortable emotions, this place of what used to perhaps dysregulate us and really move into a new place. So, the first is to really think about, when do I feel safe and connected? And so it could be that feel comforted by physical touch, for example. And so you can hug yourself or cuddle with your pet. You could hug a friend. And you might even feel that you are noticing, wow, gosh, physical touch, self soothing, havening, stroking your arms, recognizing how good it feels to touch something that feels soothing, a soft blanket, a cool pillowcase. Like, these are ways to just notice, like, wow, I feel really calm and regulated with these sensations. And so, as we explore the way that we rewire our mind and our body for safety, we want to take a look at some of the safety signals. And I invite you to spend a few days really checking in with which cues help you access comfort and safety. And so Dr. Nicole has a few ideas in her book. So she talks about nature safety signals. So I invite you to consider the sun, wind, sky, rain, earth, trees, plants, flowers, and animals. Ask yourself, perhaps do a little journaling around which of these bring you that sense of safety. And I noticed that my dog, the sun, I'll often sit outside in the sun to warm up. I can recall being really cold in an office setting, maybe the air conditioning was on too high, walking outside and like a lizard, pushing my body up against a warm wall and soaking in the warmth and the sun. What a beautiful sense of safety. And not even recognizing that this is me noticing my body was dysregulated, noticing what felt good, seeking that out, trusting myself enough to know, and then practicing that simple act of being in the sunshine. So, as we learn to trust ourselves, if we lead with our body, we really can lean into the power of our sensations. And it's a beautiful place to start this awareness of trust. And so, an environmental safety signal she talks about, it could be your home, your workplace, the smells and sights of cooking, artistic decorations. As I mentioned, the softness of fabric against your skin, the supportive design of your furniture. How many of us have a favorite chair or a place that we sit when we journal or to quietly read? I definitely have that. And maybe it's a stack of books or music that makes you feel comfortable. And then the relational safety signals. So, intentional, deep, and even breathing, calming, or repetitive movements. I was just talking about this the other day with someone. And when I weed, when I pull weeds, it's a place of calmness. It helps me feel more grounded. And it sounds funny, but it makes sense because it's sort of, I'm using my hands. It's sort of quiet. I'm out in nature. I'm touching the earth, and it's repetitive. For some of us, that can be grooming a dog, unloading the dishwasher, folding laundry. So these are really important things to recognize. And then we can co regulate with others. I sometimes feel like this is sort of the higher level to recognize this, but a kind gaze, a smile, a tilted head, cuddling with a pet, responding to a request or receiving a request. These places can build in that other awareness of that safety. And again, we really need to understand that as we're trusting ourselves, when we're in that parasympathetic state and using the signals from our body, we can start then to tune in. This feels safe. I trust my own knowing. And as I mentioned, when that intuition is dialed down, we need some real tangible tools to bring ourselves back to regulation. So, and this is the place where we trust ourselves. So, Dr. Nicole in her book mentions a couple of really tangible examples. So, I want to share that. So, for example, let's say you had a trigger where your coworker criticized your work. And so now you're feeling in that fight or flight. You're feeling unsafe and you're attempting to fight or flee from this uncomfortable place. So perhaps in the past, you actually would make a sarcastic comment back in order to deflect, to avoid, to put up that armor. We can see how that is that sympathetic response. But as we move into the parasympathetic and recognize, oh, I see my body doing that, we start to check out and begin feeling disconnected. We can remind ourselves of what it feels like to notice, oh, yeah, this is what's happening. So, something as simple as 5 deep belly breaths, a brisk walk to another room, asking another colleague for support. And so, as we notice ways to trust ourselves, and we're going to start to build in awareness of things that make us feel uncomfortable. And as we explore the actual use of our body to regulate and to move out of that place back into that ventral vagal, that grounded place where we're recognizing we are in fact safe. This is how we start to build that trust because we're no longer running away. When we're running away, when we're in that flight, we're really abandoning ourselves and we are not facing what's happening and we're not neutralizing what's happening. We're not befriending what's happening. And so when we learn to do that, that's how we start trusting ourselves more and more deeply. And so she goes on to just notice that there are lots of ways to also befriend our vagus nerve. So, developing this emotional resilience by activating your nervous system's calming response is a beautiful way to trust yourself. And this is the deep work of somatic work. This is why we want to bring our body into this journey. It's really challenging. And, ask me how I know, right? I spent a lot of time trying to think my way out of my feelings. And there's a beautiful line. I don't know exactly who said it first, but you cannot think your way out of a feeling. You can only feel your way out of a feeling. And so this is a beautiful opportunity to start to allow yourself to bring awareness through our body, through our physical affect. What's happening? What are we feeling? Connecting to that, and then following through by doing just a few small things so that we can get back into a place where we're learning to trust ourselves more and more. Part of trusting ourselves, like it's not just keeping your word, it's actually allowing yourself to take a break when something makes you feel uncomfortable or triggered or you feel discomfort and allowing yourself to check in, ask what you need in the moment. Give yourself that space to trust that your body can help you work through this. And when we calm our nervous system down, when we move into that parasympathetic, we are then also moving into our thinking brain, our prefrontal cortex versus that lizard brain that is so reactionary. And so then we have the opportunity to create this change through more elevated thought, calming our body down, recognizing how we can use the tools that we have so that when we are experiencing this another time, instead of abandoning ourselves and now our, no doesn't mean no. And so we flee the scene and we don't trust that we can work through this. Now we have evidence. And this evidence will help our brain to offer up that alternate choice. Well, I could use the sarcastic comment and deflect this, or I could take some breaths because I have evidence of doing it both ways. And so this all takes practice. And this is why this journey to finding ourselves again, to connecting with ourselves more deeply, to being more present in the moment, it's such a beautiful launching point to start with removing alcohol so that we can get back to trusting ourselves. And we can do small things, even if it starts with making our bed. If you want to use this example of just make your bed every day, you can think as you're doing this, I'm keeping my word. I'm noticing the sensation of the sheets. I'm feeling calm in the repetitive moments. I'm honoring who I want to be as someone who takes care of my environment, takes care of my home, soothes my body. So simple things are a beautiful way to start. And I'm grateful to the work of Dr. Nicole LePera and her sharing so openly how to start this process and how to connect it. And then I'm grateful to all of you for being willing to recognize that this journey to an alcohol-free lifestyle, to freedom from alcohol, requires us to connect with ourselves in beautiful ways and deeper ways that initially might feel uncomfortable, but we end up falling in love with the way that we care for ourselves, soothe ourselves, recognize what we truly need, ask for what we truly need, and honor this beautiful journey back to ourselves. So I hope that you will try some of these exercises, explore how to trust yourself more by using your body. Start there. And let's keep working this out together and keep checking in on the progress we're making. I want to celebrate all of you for taking time to listen to this message, taking time to recognize that this is an ongoing evolution, that ladder. We can start on the very first step. We can start by just putting the ladder in place. We don't even have to take the step. And together, little by little, we'll learn more trust. And then we'll see that beautiful ripple effect where other people now trust us too. All right, have a beautiful week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.